Bikepacking is a great way to explore the outdoors on your bike, but it can be a minefield knowing what equipment to bring, and some of the gear that is available can be really expensive. To try to help with that, me and a friend headed to Decathlon and found 6 bargains that will make your next bikepacking trip more enjoyable. Just to rewind a little before we start, over the past few years I've been on a fair few bikepacking trips, from 3 days cycling and camping around Suffolk to riding to a luxury beach house on a secluded island in Kent. On those trips I quickly learned what was useful and what kit was just a waste of space in the bag, and I also made a few expensive mistakes along the way. Hopefully those experiences over the past few years put me in a good place to be able to recommend equipment and products to people thinking about getting into bikepacking maybe for the first time. Bring that on your next bikepacking trip, GN?
It's quite heavy, but if there's cap to be had, maybe.
Sideload bottle cages. So when you go bikepacking, there's a good chance you'll be using one of these, a frame bag. This slots in the triangle of your frame and allows you to carry all sorts of stuff. I tend to carry things that I'm going to need access to on the bike, so perhaps an inner tube if we puncture or a puncture repair kit. Frame bags are really good, but what it does mean is that there can often be less room for your bottles in the frame, which means getting your bottles in and out of the cages can be quite difficult. Sideload bottle cages are a really useful way of maximising the size of the bottle you can use in the frame, because you're not having to pull the bottle up and out, instead you're pulling it sideways, so you can fit as big a bottle as possible in the space left in your frame. The Sideload bottle cage from Decathlon was $7.99, so not a lot of money to spend on being able to carry more water on your bikepacking trip. I think you might have an insufficient saddle height, mate.
I know, you do.
The next thing we came across was this lightweight and highly packable Merino Beanie. Now this, to be fair, is not the most fashionable item, but it is extremely useful, and I'll tell you why. When you're bikepacking, space in your bike is obviously at a premium, and you don't want to be carrying anything unnecessarily large than you need to. Classic woolly hats obviously are not massive, but they take up a lot more room packed down than the Merino Beanie. This Decathlon one is $12.99, which is cheaper than lots of others I've seen on the market. It will fit under your helmet, which a classic woolly hat wouldn't. You can wear it at night time if it's a bit chilly overnight and your sleeping bag's not quite doing the job you need it to. And because it's so small, it's just worth taking in case the weather does dip colder than you expected. You may also want to consider bringing a lightweight lock. Now a lock like this obviously is not going to deter the most enthusiastic of thieves, but it might just give you a little bit of peace of mind when you're sleeping with your bike outside your tent overnight, or if you're very quickly locking it at a cafe and it's in your sight. Full and more secure D-lock, as much as it provides more security, is obviously a lot heavier and probably isn't going to be very convenient when you're cycling with an already very heavy bike. I definitely wouldn't recommend you solely rely on this if you're locking your bike outside for long periods of time, and I would advise caution using it even if you're just storing it at a cafe in your eyesight. But for a few hundred grams and not much room in your bag, it might just give you that extra bit of peace of mind rather than no lock at all. Decathlon sell these 3 lightweight locks for $9.99, and they also sell the Z-lock, which is kind of like a zip tie. I've got a few of those, and they can be used to attach your wheels to your frame. Just again, a little bit of extra security, a little bit of peace of mind. Hate lifts. Collapsible kitchenware. Decathlon sells a wide range of cheap and good value camping equipment, but the one thing I would really highly recommend is this collapsible cup from Sea to Summit. As I've said, space in your bags is at an absolute premium, but this cup packs down to really thin that it barely takes up any space. But it's a really useful option at camp if you're making cups of tea in the morning or you're enjoying a glass of wine at night. You obviously don't have to bring a cup at all, it's not essential for bikepacking, but if you are going to bring one, I'd suggest this collapsible Sea to Summit one. Sea to Summit also sell collapsible plates, bowls and other kitchenware. I've got one of the collapsible bowls, which also doubles as a chopping board. They collapse down really small, they're lightweight, they strap easily to your bike, and they're useful bits of kit around the campsite.
Ooh.
The next piece of equipment that I'm going to recommend is probably my favourite piece of equipment that I own when it comes to camping and bikepacking. When I first used it as an adult, it kind of blew my mind how functional it was, which is quite a sad sentence to say, but that's me. Head torches are so functional for camping in general, but they're also really functional for bikepacking. If you are going to be doing any riding at night, you can wear one on your head and it doubles as your bike light. Often when you're bikepacking, you might find that you've got less handlebar space than you might usually have. You might be using a bar bag, you might be using other things that are obstructing the ability to attach your usual bike light onto your frame. The other particular benefit when it comes to bikepacking is that a head torch takes up much less space than a normal torch. And it's also so functional if you're setting up your tent in the dark. It keeps both your hands free whilst you're setting up your tent, and everywhere you look, the light follows. I know it sounds stupid, but when I first used a head torch as an adult, I just loved how wherever I looked, the light was there. I don't know, it's sad. Anyway, Decathlon sells a wide range of head torches. I don't actually own any of these in particular, but they look like good value, they're lightweight, and they pack down really small. Definitely an option worth considering. Head torch, quality piece of equipment. And finally, something that you may not always think about, but which I found really useful when bikepacking, is a highly packable backpack. Depending on the type of bikepacking trip you're going to do, it might be that when you get to a campsite, you've actually got a few days to explore the local area, or at least you need to pop to the shops away from your bike that evening. Bikepacking bags are obviously really useful in carrying high capacities of gear on the bike, but they're not very useful for popping to the shop and buying 4-can Stella, I find. I personally own the Sea to Summit Ultra Seal Nano bag, which I think was around £25, and it does pack down really small, and it gives you a decent amount of room to carry stuff home from a shop. Decathlon offers a highly packable backpack at £2.99. It doesn't look like it packs down quite as small, it doesn't look like it's got quite as much capacity, and it doesn't look like it's quite as light, but for £2.99 it's got to be a great option. Not the most thrilling thing when it comes to bikepacking, but I promise you a really useful option.
Yeah, he's on the cart lake in this bad boy. Rods out. Very nice.
I also want to acknowledge that Decathlon obviously also sell a wide range of sleeping bags, tents, and lots of other things that you're going to need for a bikepacking trip. These are really essential items that need to do a good job, so having not used them myself personally, I'm not going to proactively recommend them in this video, but Decathlon is known for offering really good value products and alternatives to the mainstream brands, so I think they will probably be worth investigating. Hope you found that useful. Please do let me know in the comments below if you own any of these products and you've got first-hand experience of them. I'd love to hear what you've got to say, and let me know what other bikepacking bargains you'd recommend for beginners. If you're looking for more bikepacking inspiration, check out this video here where I ride from my home in southeast London to the outskirts of the city for a wild camping weekend. As always, thanks for watching and cheers.